and I want you to make sure that we don't have to take any of those back. Is that all right? All right. Listen, the word that God gave me today, I didn't know it was the one that I was supposed to preach until I was in the back room and one of the production members said something to me that I had no idea about until this very moment. I was going to preach Psalms 23, and I was going to get to the part where the Bible says he prepares a table in the presence of my enemies, and I was going to name the sermon, He's Going to Bless Me in Your Face. And I was ready to preach it too. I had imagined myself hooping and hollering and screaming. And the Lord said, that's not what I want to say. 2 Kings chapter 5, verse number 1. And to contribute to the brevity of time, I'll read a few verses and explain the rest. Now Naaman, captain of the host of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master and honorable, because by him the Lord had given deliverance unto Syria. He was also a mighty man in valor, but he was a leper. And the Syrians had gone out by companies and had brought away captive out of the land of Israel a little maid, and she waited on Naaman's wife. And she said unto her mistress, would God, my Lord, were the prophet that is in Samaria? For he would recover from his leprosy. And one went in and told his Lord, saying, thus and thus said the maid that is of the land of Israel. And the king of Syria said, go, and I will send a letter unto the king of Israel. And he departed and took with him 10 talents of silver and 6,000 pieces of gold and 10 changes of clothes. And he brought the letter to the king of Israel, saying, now when this letter is come unto thee, behold, I have therewith sent Naaman my servant to thee, that thou mayest recover him of leprosy. You may be seated in the presence of the Lord. I want to talk from this subject, the ripple effect. The ripple effect. Sometime around 347 BC, there was a well-known philosopher by the name of Isocrates, not to be confused with Socrates. This is a different philosopher, Isocrates. And Isocrates wrote a letter to a young man named Demonicus, who was the son of one of Isocrates' friends who had just passed away. And as a result of the relationship between Isocrates and Demonicus' father, Isocrates took it upon himself to ensure that Demonicus had a fighting chance at life in the absence of his father. He was, for all points of argument, his surrogate father. And in a letter he wrote to Demonicus these very significant words of advice. He said to him in the letter, no adornment so becomes you as modesty, justice, and self-control. In other words, he was saying, Demonicus, if you were a Christmas tree, you would only need 3 ornaments. One, make sure you stay humble. Number 2, always be fair. And number 3, do your best to maintain the ability to regulate the responses to what happens to you in life. These words have survived the torture of time, cascaded across the oceans of the abyss, and made it into Shakespeare's own pen. As Shakespeare begins to write his play Hamlet, he puts these words in the mouth of his main character, Polonius, as he was talking to his son Laertes, and he says these words, no adornment so befits you as these three things, to culminate with the idea of this statement that we all know. He says, above all this, to thine own self be true. These words echo, echo, echo down the corridors of time. And here we are, 2022 years post the death of Jesus, still using these words in our daily lexicon as a way of crossing from darkness into the marvelous light. This story is extremely important because from Isocrates to Demonicus, from Demonicus to Shakespeare, from Shakespeare to Polonius, from Polonius to Laertes, ripples. Words from one generation passed to the next. You know, by definition, a ripple is when you toss something in the middle of a vast nothingness. And as a result of the entry of that thing, it causes the nothing to flow. It's like throwing a stone in the middle of a lake. It could be a small stone, but the ripples will be felt for feet. Perhaps if the stone is large enough, for miles. Just everybody say ripples. Continuous spreading results, actions, and events. Just small movements. Everybody say ripples. What we're witnessing here in the text are ripples. This is absolutely a ripple effect. And the life of Naaman does not start in the text that we read. This storm has been coming for some time. What we've settled on as the text is not as powerful until you understand its context. There is something that has been coming. It's been coming. It's been coming. And sometimes, especially as young people, you can miss the mark because we're focused on the destination, not recognizing that the power is in the journey. The ripples, they were coming. And so we get to this, and after, let me explain where the ripples come from. We get here after a successful ministry. Elijah, the prophet, is on his way to be with God. He's about to be caught up in a whirlwind, and he's walking with his protege, Elisha. The Bible says as they are walking and he's on his way to go back and be with the Father, he gives Elijah some words, ripples, just like Isocrates did Demonicus. He gave him some advice, and he says, listen, Elijah, I want you to stay here at Gilgal. And Elisha says to Elijah, he says, Elijah, as long as the Lord lives, I will not leave you. He says the same thing. Then he gets to Jericho. And Elijah says, listen, I need you to stay here. Elisha says, as long as the Lord liveth, I will not leave you. Then they get to the Jordan. And he tells him to stay at the Jordan. Elijah said, didn't you hear what I had said? I told you, dog, I ain't going nowhere. If you go, I'm going. If you go, I'm going. Somebody shout ripples, ripples. He repeats himself at Jericho. He repeats himself at the Jordan. And before he departs, he says, is there anything that I can do for you? He looks him square off in the face and said, that I might receive a double portion of your spirit. Do I have anybody here with me today? Why am I telling you this? Because we're witnessing ripples. Something has happened in the corridor of time that has caused a force to spread out through historicity. And now we're facing Naaman, looking at him, assuming that this story is in isolation, but it is the response of a ripple. Something that has taken place before Naaman's mother ever met his father, something that took place before the king had ever hired him to be the commander of the army. He was always floating this way. And I want you to know that there is nothing happening in your life that happened by accident. The trouble that you have endured was a stone thrown into your life, because it was a direction that you would not normally or organically go. So sometimes God has to throw a stone in the middle of your decision so that you will go where he wants you to go. It was the ripples that sent Naaman in this direction. We don't know why they moved to this area. We don't know how he met the king, but we do know somehow his life forced him little by little and wave by wave to end up into the place where he would receive this job. And all of the jurisdictional power of the military might was under Naaman's auspices. So much so that he gathered 32 armies together to annihilate Israel. And let me tell you, you know you're powerful when your enemies recruit to destroy you. You keep telling me I ain't nothing. If I'm not nothing, fight me by yourself. But the fact that you had to call my ex, my next, and everybody else to fight me shows me that you thought I was something I did. Do you know your enemies will tell you who you are? The problem with most of us is we think that our lives is an amalgamation of our friends. But let me tell you something. Your friends will never help you get to destiny. You don't get to destiny by friends, you get to destiny by enemies. Peter had never gotten Jesus any closer to the cross. It was Judas. And if you notice, when God is talking to both of them, he gives both of them a title that is surprising, because Peter, who takes a knife out and cuts a man's ear off for him and fights for him, he says, "Satan, get behind me." Meanwhile, Judas betrays him and he says, "Friend, whatever you came to do it quickly." Give your neighbor a fist bump and say, "You've been thanking the wrong people. You've been thanking people you like. You've been thanking people who had your back. You've been thanking people who've been liking your pictures on Instagram. You've been liking people who let you borrow money. You need to be thanking the person who tried to get you fired. You need to be thanking the person who doesn't like you, because you must understand that they are ripples. That's why many of you have been in the same place, because you haven't had enough ripples in the water. You evade all kinds of trouble. You never want to go through the valley of the shadow of death. But let me tell you, there is something in the ripple that gets you closer to the reward. Somebody say, "Lord, send the ripples." Naaman, to those of you watching online, Naaman was like many of you. He was powerful. Naaman was prosperous. Naaman had a platform. Naaman was prestigious. But his whole life was upset by a 3-letter conjunction. But. Naaman was powerful, but he was a leper. Naaman was the captain of the guard, but he was a leper. Naaman obviously was wealthy, but he was a leper. He had stars on his uniform, but sores on his skin. Oh, God, help me in this place today. On the surface, it looked like he had the victory. But on his skin, it looked like he was in the valley. Are you praying with me today? So what he does is he keeps his uniform on so nobody could see his skin. Oh, the danger of letting your uniform be your skin. Oh, the danger of letting your money be your skin. Oh, the danger of allowing your title to be your skin. Help me in this place today. What we have today is a society of hiders. Nobody wants you to see the skin. Nobody wants you to see the flesh. Nobody wants to see the real you. And so we pretend to be what we are not to get people to accept who we are. But the problem is when I show you who I am not and you accept what I am not, then you become frustrated when you find out who I really am. My advice to you is to show who you are often and early. Well, I'm going to talk to some single women here. Tell them on the first date, I don't cook, I don't clean, but I do know how to pray. If you're looking for a maid, you ain't got the right chick. If you want somebody to pray, you looking at your girl. Do I have anybody in here to say, you got to know who I am now? Yeah, we're all hiding. Look at your neighbor and say, I know you're hiding something. I see you in your Chanel, but I know you're hiding something. I see you with your lace front, but I know you're hiding something. Brother, I see you with that Spank t-shirt on, but I know if you take it out, something, I see you. We're all hiding. And I'm not here to judge you because you are not the first one to do it. This whole human drama started off with a hider. Come here, Adam. Where art thou? Hiding behind a fig leaf. You're not alone in this. When Moses was born, his mother thought it would not be robbery to hide him in the reeds in the Nile River. David, when he was running from his enemies, he hid in the cave of Adullam. When Elijah, he would hide in the cave. David hid in the cave. Listen, Gideon was hiding in a wine press, threshing wheat. We're all hiding, but God sent me here to tell you, and I want you to help me to prophesy to somebody. Tell them, God told me to tell you, it's time to drop the disguise. Yeah, it's time to drop the disguise. God can't bless who you pretend to be. Stop watering down yourself because people can't handle you at 100 proof. Be who you are. Be it now. Somebody shout, I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of hiding. Matter of fact, some of y'all are afraid to praise right now because you sit next to somebody who's been looking at you funny all service. You know that if you get too loud, look, they're going to say something to you. Look at your neighbor that's sitting down. Say, I'm not sitting down. If you want to see the preacher, stand up. I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of coming to church. It's too early. We're all hiding. We're all hiding. We're all hiding. We're all hiding. That's why when Naaman came into the scene, the Bible lets us know that as a leper, he had to do something whenever he came around people. He said, unclean, unclean. He had to announce what he had before he entered into the room. Isn't it about time that we just start letting people know who we are early? So that people are not consumed by what they find out later on. Everybody just shout, I'm crazy, I'm crazy. Confused. You might as well go ahead and say what you are, because when you hide what you are, you cannot be accepted for who you can be. This is the time for you to drop your disguise. I need about 500 people watching me online right now to shout so loud in your apartment that you disturb your neighbor and say, I'm dropping the disguise. I'm getting rid of this closet Christianity. I'm going to be who I am supposed to be, and I'm going to do the best I can at it, because this is the season for me to be myself. Somebody shout, drop the disguise. I wish I could have went in the Garden of Eden and told Adam, you don't have to hide, you're already forgiven. Moses, you don't have to hide your stutter. It's not necessary for your next assignment. Problem is, you're hiding the very thing God intends to use. You trying to hide your pain, and that's where your ministry is. Oh, God, I wish I had somebody in this church today. Just high five your neighbor and tell them, drop the disguise. Stop dumbing yourself down. Stop going into buildings. There's one thing to be humble, but there's another thing to be timid. I am calling you out of your timidity. I want you to walk into the boldness that God has created you to be. You fine, it ain't your fault. You smart, so stop acting dumb. You pretty, so stop acting ugly. Somebody shout, this is me. Somebody in the balcony shout, this is me. Somebody at home shout, "This is me." Elijah, don't hide. God's going to take care of Jezebel. Stop hiding. Just go on and do you. Somebody says, just be you. And just announce it. This is who I am. You would have got the job if you didn't lie on the application. I mean, you thought that you needed to present yourself as something you were not, and it was pretending to be who you were not that lost you the opportunity, because God cannot bless who you pretend to be. Unclean, unclean. Insecure, insecure. Rejected, rejected. Divorced, divorced. 3 kids, 2 baby daddies. Oh, you don't want to say nothing. You might as well get it out early instead of tiptoeing around. And this, let me tell the seasoned saints something. You got to stop being so hard on these young people. Just because you got 20 years past your tight skirt don't mean you didn't used to wear one. Holler at your boy. Oh, no, I'll fight every one of y'all. Don't look at me like that. Just because you done got 20 years past it, it ain't that you don't want to do it. It's you ain't got the energy to do it, because after you take your medicine, you got a nap that you got to take. But you remember when you used to go to Vegas and you had a skirt so tight that they could see your blood circulating. Now you out here judging these young folks. Leave them alone. Fist bump somebody, say, just say what it is. But he was a leper. Moses had a sister named Miriam. The Bible says in Numbers chapter 12 that she was shut out of the camp. Somebody here and somebody online knows what it's like to be prosperous but don't fit. To be employed but still searching. To be educated and still can't find the groove. Shut out. But do you know what God told me to tell you? Oh, y'all don't want to hear it. Miriam was shut out of the camp that she used to be in. But when she caught what she caught, she got put out of the place she used to be welcomed. God told me to tell you that he's about to open a door that used to be open to you. Oh, you missed what I just said. God said to tell the people he's getting ready to open the door that your butt closed. Oh, you missed what I just said. Used to have, I almost got the church, but I got divorced. I almost got the job, but I was a felon. God says, I'm about to beat your butt. I'm about to beat the butt out of your life. There's not another butt that's going to keep you out of the door. I am what I am, but I'm still about to be what God called me to be. Slap somebody and say, your butt days are over. You're about to be the head, not just the head, but the tail, above only and never, beneath, the lender and not